Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 152. Without any delay, start explanation. Staring at them as they left, Tang Wulin racked his brains, but still he could not figure out what the surprises were supposed to be. Could it be that there's someone I know on Star Luo continent? Impossible. It's the Star Luo continent, for crying out loud. His mind baffled, Tang Wulin did not return to the academy. He was about to leave for the Star Luo continent and he had to pay the Tang sect a visit. He was now a white warrior of the Tang sect's Battle Soul Hall. He had to inform them if he was going to be away from the sect for such a long period. Ever since he joined Battle Soul Hall, he had received a lot of cultivation resources, but the Tang sect had never given him any missions. When he sold forged metals to the sect, he even got bonus contribution points. It could be said that he received a lot of benefits but had never given anything in return. The least he could do was inform the sect that he would be away for a year. Traveling to the Tang sect was like driving a light carriage on a familiar road. Tang Wulin found Battle Soul Hall's Hall Master Guo Xiaoshu almost immediately. Yes, we're already aware that you're going to the Star Luo continent. Observe more and speak less while you're there. Look after yourself, and return to us safely, Guo Xiaoshu said with a faint smile. Remember to bring your White Warrior's badge. As he said this, Guo Xiaoshu took out a letter and passed it to Tang Wulin. If you're far away from the Doluo continent, you won't be able to reach us via soul communication. Bring this letter to the Tang sect's branch in the Star Luo continent and give it to the person in charge there. If you need anything, just request their assistance. Huh? Tang Wulin was slightly stunned. Hall Master, you're saying that we have people from the Tang sect on the Star Luo continent? Guo Xiaoshu smiled. What do you think? Not only on the Star Luo continent, we even have our people on the Heaven Do continent. It isn't just us. The Spirit Pagoda's network is wider than ours. Some organizations can't be stopped by the continents. Of course, Shrek Academy is an exception. The academy is unwilling to expand itself. He looked at Tang Wulin with deep eyes. You're still young. It'll do you good to see what's out there and broaden your horizons. You're steadier compared to your peers, and you must remember to stay calm no matter what comes at you. Don't forget that there's a special button behind your Battle Soul Hall badge. When you're in trouble, just press that button. If there are any sect members in your vicinity, they will immediately come to your rescue. All right. If Guo Xiaoshu had not reminded him, Tang Wulin would have forgotten about the special function of his White Warrior badge. After exiting the Tang sect, Tang Wulin looked up at the sky. The weather today had just a hint of gloom. Let's hope that I'll get something out of this trip to the Star Luo continent. Tang Wulin heaved a sigh. According to his plans, he should have broken through to rank 40, obtained his second spirit soul and fourth soul ring, and become a rank 6 blacksmith before he left for the Star Luo continent. However, he had only achieved the goal of becoming a rank 6 blacksmith, and even that was through the back door. He was slightly depressed. Thinking about battle armor, Yixinglan was just 3 pieces short of a complete set, while everyone else had only 1 piece of armor each. Tang Wulin did not have any issues with this. Once Yixinglan became a one-word battle armor master, her forging skill and speed would increase tremendously, and it would then be a piece of cake for her companions to become one-word battle armor masters. He had already prepared the spirit alloy for everyone. They could even continue crafting battle armor while in the Star Luo continent. He took out his soul communication tool and dialed Guu's number. What's the matter? Guu's voice came from the speaker. Guu, can you get your hands on some entry tickets to the Spirit Ascension platform? The intermediate spirit platform, I mean, Tang Wulin asked. Guu replied, I think so. What do you plan on doing? Tang Wulin said, I've been training hard these days, but I don't see any improvement. I want to go and let off some steam. It's not likely that I'll reach rank 40 before we leave, after all. I'd be better off flexing my limbs. Where are you now? Guu asked. I'm at the Tang sect's headquarters. Guu said, wait for me then. I'll join you, and we'll go there together. Tang Wulin smiled. Sounds like a plan. Shortly after, a soul taxi stopped in front of Tang Wulin. Gu waved at him. He went over and got in the car. The soul taxi headed steadily toward Spirit Pagoda. Are you coming with me to the Spirit Ascension platform? Tang Wulin asked with curiosity. Gu nodded. That's great. Tang Wulin grinned and casually held her hand, but Gu pulled it back as if she had just been shocked by electricity. What's wrong? Tang Wulin was astonished. They always had a little physical contact when they were together, and Gu had never acted this way before. Only at that point did he only realize that Gu was not her usual self. Her eyes looked colder. It is improper for a man and a woman to touch each other's hands. Please have some self-respect, Gu said dryly. Tang Wulin was at a loss. Then why didn't you say that when you held my hand of your own accord? Gu's expression grew awkward. She turned her head towards the window and ignored him. Tang Wulin scratched his head. So the saying that a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean was true. What on the continent was going on here? He kept silent as well. The soul taxi left Shrek City and drove on for quite some time before it arrived at the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters. Along the way, Gu and Tang Wulin kept silent. Tang Wulin did not want to initiate a conversation only to be snubbed. Gu paid the fare and got out of the taxi. She walked towards the Spirit Pagoda headquarters, with Tang Wulin hastily following behind her. With her badge, Gu brought him into the headquarters. After being in Shrek City for so long, Tang Wulin had always been cultivating in the academy and had never came to the Spirit Ascension platform here. This was just a random idea he had had that day. When he was still in East Sea City, their actual combat abilities were the fruits of training on a Spirit Ascension platform. The Spirit Ascension platform of the Spirit Pagoda headquarters was at the rear of the complex. The duo switched elevators twice before they arrived at their destination. Gu brought Tang Wulin through 2 security gates and they arrived at a metallic room. A familiar screen and airtight capsule greeted them. The intermediate Spirit Ascension platform, please, Gu said to the staff in the room. All right. The staff did not ask anything, but he shot Tang Wulin a curious look. Tang Wulin asked Gu in a soft voice, how much does the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform here cost? Gu threw him a sideways glance and kept her mouth shut. She went into one of the airtight capsules. Tang Wulin frowned slightly. What was her problem? He did not recall crossing her today. If he had known this was going to happen, he would not have come to the Spirit Ascension platform. If they were uncomfortable with each other, they would almost certainly not be able to synchronize later. It would be a difficult guess as to how long they could keep at it. Since he was there anyway, he would grab the chance to let loose. He went into the capsule and it shut itself tight. Various scanning instruments came to life. Tang Wulin closed his eyes. His current body was much stronger compared to when he first came from East Sea City. Dizziness soon hit him as the energy waves reached his body. After a long minute, Tang Wulin felt his body go light and he could breathe in fresh air. He was in. He opened his eyes and immediately saw Gu not far from him. They were surrounded by a dense forest. There seemed to be no difference from when they entered the Spirit Ascension platform in East Sea City. Tang Wulin took a few steps forward and stood beside Gu. At the same time, his watchful eyes observed their surroundings. Although it had been a long time since he had gone to a Spirit Ascension platform, his alertness had not diminished one bit. They could have been facing great danger at any moment there. They would have to be careful with every step they took. Gu stood behind him. Her silent eyes were on the tall and straight teenage boy in front of her, seemingly lost. Tang Wulin had gotten a little taller after 6 months. His shoulders had broadened and he had become even more handsome. He was growing into a fine young man. Tang Wulin, now approaching 15 years old, was already 180 centimeters tall. Other than some boyishness in his face, he looked almost like an adult. As the monitor of first-grade Class 1, he was powerful and dashing. His admirers from the first and second grades were not in short supply. Tang Wulin was the only one oblivious to all this. He busied himself with cultivating and forging, spending little time interacting with other people. Gu even thought that the way Wu Sidua looked at Tang Wulin was slightly strange. Do I really not know how it feels to like someone? What are you spacing out for? What's with you today? When Tang Wulin turned around, he saw with shock that Gu had not been following him. She was still standing at her original spot. He could not help but feel slightly flustered. He could overlook her peculiar emotions just now, but this was the intermediate spirit ascension platform and they could be in grave peril at any time. The soul beasts would not show mercy just because they were unprepared. Gu said nothing and walked silently to his side. Are you all right? Tang Wulin asked again, this time without blame in his tone, only tender care. He even attempted to touch her forehead. I'm all right. Gu pushed his hand away softly. Tang Wulin looked at her with puzzled eyes. He then turned around and continued walking. He and Gu had spiritual powers from the Spirit Sea realm. Their senses were so sharp, they could notice any movement within a 50-meter radius. Gu lifted her hand and green light enveloped their bodies, making them more agile. Tang Wulin was relieved that she seemed to be back to normal. If we're to stay until tomorrow morning, we'll have around 15 hours to spend in the Spirit Ascension platform. Let's be on our way and have a look at the deeper parts. At their current level, ordinary soul beasts were not a threat to them. Tang Wulin had no plans to ascend his soul rings this time. His main objective was to find some powerful soul beasts to vent his frustration on and let loose. His spiritual power connected him with the surrounding plants, and his senses were immediately heightened. Although the rate at which his soul power increased was far from ideal even after spending 6 months training in the special cultivation venue, Tang Wulin's bond with plants had grown stronger. The blue-silver grass was like an extension of his senses as it conveyed the happenings of faraway places to him. In the distance, a faint light glimmered in the air. Tang Wulin approached it quickly. He took a step forward and leaped. The light shrunk and moved away instantly. It looked like a bird. Tang Wulin dropped down from the sky and told Gu. He had no intentions of hunting down the weak soul beasts. They hastened their pace and proceeded on their journey. Suddenly, a low rumble came from ahead. It sounded like thunder, but it seemed to be far away. Tang Wulin knelt on one knee and placed his ear onto the blue-silver grass on the ground. He silently focused, feeling the vibrations. Fear. What he felt was the raw fear transmitted from the distant blue-silver grass. Seems like a herd of beasts. We should climb up a tree, Tang Wulin immediately said to Gu beside him. He walked quickly toward Gu, placed his right arm under both of hers and leaped up. Using Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, the tips of his toes tapped against the tree, and with another movement, he landed on a thick and strong branch with Gu in his arms. Gu leaned on the tree trunk. Tang Wulin held onto a higher branch to steady himself. Judging by the sound, they seemed to be heading toward us. There's quite a number of them. Tang Wulin had a slight frown. A low rumble like this could only have come from a group of beasts. The soul beasts must have been huge, or they wouldn't have been able to create such a fierce noise. As expected, the rumble drew closer, getting louder as it did. Tang Wulin's expression changed slightly. What group of beasts was this? How could they create such a furor? Boom, 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 boom. The thunderous stomping seemed to cause the entire forest to shake violently. It left them with a feeling of foreboding. Fright registered on Tang Wulin's face. His brows were tightly knitted together. A dash of purple flashed across his eyes and he looked in the direction of the sound through the canopy. His expression changed quickly. This is bad. I'm afraid we're in trouble. It's a herd of diamond boars. Diamond boars were communal soul beasts, and frenzied diamond boars were more terrifying than lions or tigers. They were large creatures and their heads were as tough as iron. Their 3 pairs of canine fangs were like spades with extra sharp points. When they ran wild, they had an incredible ramming speed. Even powerful soul beasts would not wish to be on the receiving end of these boars. They had about 15,000 kilograms of force. The teeth of the diamond boars were of very good quality material. They were hard, compact, and suitable to be used as carving tools. That was why in the old days, this species of soul beast went extinct very early on. However, in the Spirit Ascension platform, they were perfectly recreated. Boom! 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 The booms were not just generated by the boar's stomping hooves. They were also the result of falling trees. A mature diamond boar could reach up to 2 tons in weight with a body length of over 5 meters and height of 2 meters. In a stampede, the force of the direct impact was unimaginable. Ordinary trees could not stop their advance. Tang Wulin turned to look at the tree on which he and Gu stood, and he cried out inwardly in alarm. This tree looked no older than 100 years, and he was afraid that his thoughts had only proceeded up to that point when the diamond boars were closing in on them. Far away, great trees fell one by one. The smell of the herd greeted their noses. Tang Wulin saw that the leading diamond boar was huge. Its hairs were greenish-black and stood up like iron needles. It was 2 times larger than a mature diamond boar, and where it passed, great trees fell. Surely, this must have been the worst of luck. They had just gotten into the intermediate Spirit Ascension platform and they already encountered this hazard. Gu, be careful. All he could hope for now was that the wild boars would not come their way. However, luck was apparently not on their side. As he looked on, the massive boar at the lead was sprinting madly toward them. Boom! The tree could not bear the impact of the diamond boar and crashed down loudly. With a flash of silver light, Gu had already teleported in midair with Tang Wulin. However, they were still some distance away from the next tree and she was unable to teleport directly to it. If she brought someone along, the distance of Gu's teleportation would be affected. 2 blades of blue-silver grass lashed out in the nick of time. Tang Wulin arched his back and carried Gu on his back. He pulled forcefully on the blue-silver grass and used it to catapult them toward another tree. At that moment, the tree that Tang Wulin had bound his blue-silver grass to was rammed by the other boars. Like the others, it started to fall. As the situation turned increasingly perilous, Tang Wulin's mind became clearer. Using his arms to swing the blue-silver grass, he swung himself. Then, he released his blue-silver grass and grappled onto another tree in midair. The trees continued to fall as the herd of boars advanced. Tang Wulin followed his blue-silver grass's guidance as he carried Gu and kept changing his direction in the forest. The blue-silver grass's effect, bind, was made full use of by Tang Wulin in his current situation. He did his best to control it so that he and Gu would not fall. Gu clung to his back with her arms tightly around his neck. Her long legs crossed around his waist and their 2 bodies were stuck close together. She could clearly hear Tang Wulin's steady and strong heartbeat. Plainly, he did not lose his cool in the face of their current adversity. He faced the dangers ahead of him with a calm heart. That sense of security made Gu subconsciously turn her head and rest her cheek on his shoulder as she closed her eyes. The wind howled as it blew past. She had her arms around his warm body, which made her feel secure. The coldness in her eyes and her gloomy disposition seemed to have vanished without a trace as a faint smile carved itself upon her face. They still had a lot of time before the session came to an end. Regardless of what came next, she would enjoy herself. Hey, can you go easy on those arms? You're choking me. Tang Wulin's complaint reached her ears. Apparently, Gu did not notice how tightly she was holding on. She quickly loosened her grip. How can I possibly choke you with these thin arms of mine? Tang Wulin pulled on the blue-silver grass and changed directions once again. The duo leaped in the air. He felt like a monkey as he swung from tree to tree, but he was starting to enjoy the sensation. He could not help but laugh. I'm just fresh meat. You should be protecting me. Gu clicked her tongue and punched him in the shoulder. The diamond boar herd finally passed them by leaving behind a messy trail. Tang Wulin pulled on the blue-silver grass for the final time and sent both of them into the air. He pushed against a tree trunk with the tips of his toes and leaped. Both of them then fell straight toward the ground. Spatial, Tang Wulin said to Guu. At this moment, if Guu used spatial retreat with him, they could immediately break their fall. However, Guu showed no signs of using her skill and only tightened her grip on his body. Hey! Tang Wulin gasped in surprise. He had already landed on the surface. At the exact moment his feet touched the ground, he had no choice but to roll over with Guu immediately. His strength was impressive, especially since he managed to negate 70% of their falling speed when they landed. He held onto Guu as they continued rolling on the floor, the soft grass helping to cushion their fall. A moment passed as they lay there after coming to a complete stop. Tang Wulin lay on the blue-silver grass, his expression filled with helplessness while Guu lay beside him with a sweet smile on her face. "What's going on with you today? You're acting really strange," Tang Wulin said somewhat helplessly. Guu spoke with a smile. "There are a few days in a month when a girl behaves as such. Cheers to you if you can understand everything in this world." "Which few days are those?" Tang Wulin turned around and looked toward Guu. He could not help but be stunned upon seeing the smile on her face. Those few days indeed. Guu's cheeks blushed. "I don't understand," Tang Wulin replied foolishly. "There is no need for you to understand," Guu retorted unpleasantly. Tang Wulin looked at her in confusion. "Can we still continue? If not, then we might as well withdraw. You're not working with me here, and it feels terrible." Guu rolled her eyes at him. "All right, I won't mess with you anymore." Meanwhile, they suddenly noticed that the originally sunny sky had abruptly gone dark. They turned around and looked upward subconsciously. Both of them were immediately horrified by what they saw. It was a humongous head, lowering down as it looked at the pair of tiny humans on the ground with eyes as large as water tanks. What sort of creature was this? Tang Wulin pulled at Guu as they rolled over and leaped up without the slightest hesitation. There was not a lot of cover since so many of the trees had just been rammed down by the diamond boar herd. They could clearly see the entire form of this towering creature. It was a titanic, 60-meter-tall monster with a body as vast as a hill. There were thick grayish-black scales covering its entire body, each one an irregular shape. Its monstrous head was almost a quarter of its body length, and its colossal pair of eyes were slightly puzzled as it looked at these humans that appeared so small. It was dragging a thick and strong tail behind its back, and its slightly gaping mouth was big enough to swallow even the biggest of the diamond boars they had encountered earlier. Tang Wulin scolded himself secretly. Why had he not used his common sense? Naturally, a creature in this forest capable of making that diamond boar herd run for their lives was certainly not going to be easy to deal with. Its ghastly white teeth, sharp as knives inside its cavernous mouth, were covered in fresh blood. It was apparent that the creature had just hunted something. Roar? Without a word, the monster widened its mouth and gave out a raging roar that shook the heavens and earth. Its booming voice transformed into a terrifying sound wave that traveled directly toward Tang Wulin and Guu. It's so powerful. There was no way for him to determine the rank of this enemy soul beast because as far as Tang Wulin could recall, there was no soul beast such as this. The Overlord dragon. It is the lord of the elemental dragons. Guu's voice echoed in Tang Wulin's ears. With a flash of silver light, the two of them vanished into thin air. When they reappeared, they were standing next to an uprooted tree. Tang Wulin asked softly, "Are you sure that this creature is an elemental dragon?" "I'm sure. I didn't expect such a beast to exist in the Spirit Ascension platform. The Overlord dragon should have perished in ancient times. That is why there's no introduction to it in our textbooks now. I read about it in the Spirit Ascension platform's library. A fully grown Overlord dragon is on par with the existence of a giant dragon. I think this one has a 10,000-year cultivation base, but even an ordinary 100,000-year soul beast is not necessarily stronger. We're in big trouble now." It has an extremely sharp sense of smell. Let's fight for a final chance. If my bloodline does not affect it, then you should flee the battlefield at once." As Tang Wulin spoke, he pushed against the tree by his side and leaped swiftly into the air. Already, he could clearly sense that the Overlord dragon was approaching. It was such a massive creature, and yet, it did not make a sound when it walked. This was also the reason why they had not sensed its presence earlier. Roar! The valiant sound of a dragon's roar burst out from Tang Wulin's mouth. He leaped into the air and released his blood essence instantly. It was his golden dragon body. A thick wave of blood essence burst out immediately. His golden dragon bloodline's fluctuations surged skyward when he intentionally reversed his blood essence. His palms pushed up to the sky as the enormous golden dragon's head emerged. It was Golden Dragon Shocks the Heavens. The Golden Dragon Shocks the Heavens launched by Tang Wulin was not aimed at the Overlord dragon. Instead, it was aimed at the sky. He could sense that he was utterly incapable of fighting the creature, judging by the beast's size and Gu's description. He was completely outranked, so his only chance was to intimidate it. He could only hope this would buy him enough time to escape. Golden Dragon Shocks the Heavens was capable of releasing his blood essence on the greatest scale, so he knew that the success of his plan depended on this single move. As expected, the Overlord dragon was already upon them when Tang Wulin had leaped up. It seemed like the beast had never seen humans before and was approaching out of curiosity, not in a rush to attack. The waves of soul power emitted by Tang Wulin and Guu were far too weak to threaten it, so it felt no need to strike back. Roar! The Overlord dragon raised its head and roared furiously at the sound of Tang Wulin's valiant dragon's roar. The powerful shockwave even changed the color of the sky. Tang Wulin could feel the blood essence in his body surge, but it was followed closely by a strong urge to free himself from the Golden Dragon King's seal. Roar! To his astonishment, the Golden Dragon's head which Tang Wulin brought out from the Golden Dragon Shocks the Heavens roared of its own accord. Compared to Tang Wulin's roar, this dragon's roar was far more powerful, with a superior manner. There was even a feeling of overwhelming the heavens and earth. The voice of his roar was certainly not as intense as the Overlord dragon's, but the roar's clear and melodious voice was not obscured at all. Tang Wulin could feel a burst of energy release from his body, propelling him upward and temporarily suspending him in midair. Then, to his astonishment, the hulking Overlord dragon, over 60 meters in height, lay down and bowed its gargantuan head in his direction. A speckle of golden light glowed in the middle of the Overlord dragon's head. Tang Wulin was stunned for a moment. All of a sudden, there was a voice coming from inside him that seemed to be telling him something. He could not understand it, but his body was floating uncontrollably in the direction of the Overlord dragon's gigantic head. The golden light in the middle of the Overlord dragon's head glowed brighter and brighter. Tang Wulin could already see that it was apparently a diamond-shaped scale. The scales on the Overlord dragon's body were all irregular. Most were oval-shaped or semicircular. Only that single scale glowed, shimmering with a dazzling golden light. It was a magnificent color and shaped like a diamond. The shape was exactly like Tang Wulin's scales, with its edges and corners, and was filled with texture. This was... The Overlord dragon raised its immense head and looked at him with a pair of scarlet eyes. Tang Wulin was feeling a little nervous. He could already feel that he was capable of floating now, not because of his own abilities but from the Overlord dragon's soul power. The creature was truly formidable. It was, at the very least, the strongest of all the soul beasts that Tang Wulin had ever faced thus far. How effective is the influence of my bloodline on it? Tang Wulin's heart was beating wildly. Although he had relied on the power of his bloodline to suppress many soul beasts before, this was his first time facing an Overlord dragon with such a rank. The bloodline's influence was effective on all dragon-type soul beasts and martial souls, but it was limited by the rank of his cultivation base. For example, his Golden Dragon bloodline was capable of affecting the Scarlet Dragon Doluo and the Blazing Dragon Doluo, yet those two respected Doluos were only marginally affected. He could possibly affect them even more if he were to elevate his cultivation base to their rank. The dragon stared at Tang Wulin. The human and beast were locked in a stalemate. Tang Wulin was already pondering in his heart now, If he were to be torn apart by the Overlord dragon, how would the agony that he suffered affect his spiritual power? Even though his spiritual power was already elevated to the Spirit C rank now, this incident would definitely not reduce the pain that he was suffering from, and perhaps it would even strengthen him. One is the knife and I am the fish. This was how Tang Wulin felt at the time. He could only push his bloodline power with all his might to maintain the golden dragon shocks the heavens. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his head. The Overlord dragon widened its mouth slowly. Due to their close proximity, Tang Wulin could clearly see that each of its huge teeth was a few meters long and would require two people to wrap themselves around it. The ghastly white teeth were covered in blood and scraps of meat. Tang Wulin thought that the dragon could even consume a hill in one gulp as he witnessed its mouth widen more and more. I can't do this anymore. The stress is too much. Tang Wulin had already thought to press the escape button. At least there was still an opportunity to do so now. Yet it was also at this moment he was shocked to find that his body was paralyzed. A burst of unusual energy radiated from the Overlord dragon's body and formed a strange connection with his blood essence reversal. Tang Wulin felt like he was hit with an immobilization spell. He was suspended in the air and could not budge at all. He was effectively rendered incapable of fleeing the Spirit Ascension platform now. How did this happen? He could not even make a sound. He could only gape speechlessly as he looked at the dragon's mouth widening more and more right before his eyes. He could kill me in just one gulp. Tang Wulin could not imagine how it would feel to be chewed up by such humongous teeth. Meanwhile, the Overlord dragon was moving. Its massive head suddenly thrust forward with its mouth opened wide. It's over. Tang Wulin's mind was completely blank. He could sense as a wave of tremendous power gushed forth, so strong that he was unable to breathe. Swoosh! Tang Wulin rose into the air and there was an indescribable uneasiness within his body. Despite this, his breathing had recovered, and he did not feel any pain. He regained control of his body as he hastily shifted his soul power to slow his fall. He could clearly see the Overlord dragon closing its mouth as he fell. Its thick tongue had just retracted into its gaping maw. In an instant, Tang Wulin's entire body was drenched. What? It wasn't trying to bite me but lick me. Tang Wulin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He felt relieved as if he had just miraculously escaped death. The Overlord dragon's giant head jutted forward just in time to catch Tang Wulin as he fell from the sky. Tang Wulin landed right onto the diamond-shaped golden scale. His hands pushed down to stabilize his body. Just as he pressed on the golden scale, the dragon raised its head and let out a deafening roar that shook the entire forest. Tang Wulin could suddenly feel the creature's emotions. It was cheering. It was thrilled and excited. Out of nowhere, a golden color appeared on Tang Wulin's body. The golden dragon body was releasing a gentle gold-colored soul ring. The color spread to the scale on the Overlord dragon's forehead and then to the rest of its body. The blood essence fluctuations in Tang Wulin's body grew more and more strenuous. The 14 seals that had yet to be opened were vibrating slightly. An unfathomable force radiated from the depths of his blood essence and released into his body. The great Overlord dragon seemed to sense the force as it slowly knelt, then lay prone on the ground. Tang Wulin stood up subconsciously and then jumped down from the dragon's head. After landing, he turned around to face the enormous creature and found that its entire body was now golden. What happened after that astonished Tang Wulin. The Overlord dragon slowly shut its large eyes, and Tang Wulin could clearly see that they were filled with relief as they closed. Soon after, its gigantic body started fading. A stream of golden smoke floated out of the diamond-shaped scale on its forehead and flew toward Tang Wulin. The golden color filled the air and covered Tang Wulin's entire body. He felt like a strange rush of power seemed to seep into him. He could do nothing as the force grew stronger and stronger. In an instant, clouds of golden smoke had completely surrounded him, and his body was absorbing them like the Great Sea. Guu had already walked out from the trees by the side earlier. She was slightly stunned upon witnessing the incredible scene happening before her. She muttered to herself, How did I forget that the Overlord dragon is lord of the land dragons because the Golden Dragon King's bloodline courses through its body? It isn't pure, but it's the only one. The golden smoke clouds lasted for more than 10 minutes before they gradually vanished. His vision no longer obstructed, Tang Wulin was amazed to discover that the gargantuan Overlord dragon had disappeared. It was as though it had not been there at all, if not for the vast hind footprints that the dragon had left behind. Tang Wulin felt that there was something different inside his body, but he could not explain it. He concentrated his inner sight, but he could not sense anything at all. The remaining 14 Golden Dragon King seals were still firm as before, and there was no change to his soul power. His blood essence was still exuberant but not enhanced. Without thinking, he released his soul ring, but there were no changes there either. So, what happened to the golden clouds that fused with his body? What was that anyway? Even though this happened in the Spirit Ascension platform, almost everything else was unreal. His spirit soul and soul ring were not enhanced. It felt like nothing had ever happened, yet Tang Wulin was almost absolutely certain that something had entered his body. Something he could not comprehend. At least the crisis brought by the Overlord dragon had passed. Tang Wulin exhaled a breath of relief. The urge to vent that he felt earlier had dissipated due to the shock. Once again, he had to come to terms with his own strength. He was still insignificant in this world, and still a long way from becoming one of the elites. That being said, he surmised that even Teacher Wu would flee if he had bumped into the Overlord dragon. The creature was simply too powerful. Tang Wulin turned around to look at Gu standing at a distance and found that she was staring back at him too. He hastily ran to her side. Did you see that? How did the Overlord dragon disappear? Do you know what happened? I don't feel like anything in me has changed, Tang Wulin said confusedly. Gu shook her head and answered as if deep in thought, I only felt that it fused with you most willingly. Just like how the Spirit Soul and Soul Master reached an agreement when the Spirit Ascension platform was first built. It can only be completed when the two parties do it of their own free will. On the other hand, we already did it one-sided now. Tang Wulin laughed as he said, it's still impossible for it to turn into my spirit soul, right? I have yet to reach rank 40. Gu smiled. I don't know about that either. Anyway, how did we manage to keep it from making a meal of us? Shall we rest a while? Tang Wulin sat on the ground. Of course we should. You don't know how terrified I was earlier. I was petrified. We couldn't even bear the sound of its roar, leave alone a full frontal assault. Let me rest for a while first. I doubt any other soul beasts would dare to come here after all of its furious roaring earlier. It sounds like the management of this Spirit Ascension platform is problematic. This is only an intermediate Spirit Ascension platform, so how did it? Tang Wulin was interrupted when he suddenly felt dizzy. It was as though the sky and earth were spinning, and the space around him seemed to have become twisted. Gu felt the same. Both of them wore shocked expressions before everything faded to black as they lost consciousness. The entire process seemed to be very brief. When they once again opened their eyes, they discovered that they were already at the Spirit Pagoda where they had entered the Spirit Ascension platform earlier. The hatch cover opened, and Gu was climbing out from inside. Have we been sent back? Tang Wulin turned over and sat up. He was startled to see that the place was filled with people standing around. They were led by Gu's teacher Leng Yaoshu, the Spirit Pagoda's deputy master who was titled the Heavenly Phoenix Dolor. Tang Wulin sat up and found that everyone staring straight at him. Leng Yaoshu's gaze burned as she looked at him. Don't panic. There's been an accident in the Spirit Pagoda. We're going to investigate for a while. Come and follow me, both of you. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.